Or did everyone like manage to get it set up? Okay, if you didn't watch the video, that's fine. I'm still gonna teach the lesson. It's not like, I mean, like Patrick will send the video in chat after today's class. Just see if you can set up VS Code via the video. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to send an email via to CodeUnity, and we will help you get that set up. Nevertheless, we will start today's lesson. Patrick, if you can start recording, that would be great. So yeah, we're gonna start now. Okay. So just before we get started, we're gonna reintroduce ourselves since unfortunately we had technical difficulties in the last class and a lot of people were not able to make it. So yeah, here is an introduction. First off, I'm Arin. I'm a high school student at Western Canada High School. I have experience in programming for the last 6 years in multiple languages such as JavaScript, HTML, CSS, Python, and Java. I've done robotics, and I've worked at an internship with Patrick where I was able to apply these in a real-world setting. I also have prior teaching experience because I taught at Kumon for the math and reading program, and I taught an FFCA coding club back in grade 9, like a few years ago. So I've experienced teaching and teaching coding. So I've had a bunch of I've dedicated significant time to self-teaching coding and just teaching other people coding over the last few years. So I can recognize the potential benefits for youth everywhere in receiving guidance in this field to gain a head start, especially if you want to pursue it later in life. So that's why I'm very, very eager to support these people through CodeUnity. All right, next up we have our co-instructor Shlok. Unfortunately, he could not make it today, but essentially an introduction for him. He goes to the same school as me. He has a lot of coding experience, so he will also be a very beneficial coach. All right, Patrick, go ahead.
All right, my name is Patrick. I go to FFCA, and I'm just really interested in computer science, which started when I began learning Scratch. So some of you may have heard of that back in like kindergarten or sometime around that. And I've just continued to improve my skills through classes like robotics and other online courses, which led to summer internship at Simply Embedded, which I did with the RIN. So I was able to apply my skills in a professional setting. I've also received awards like highest achievement in robotics 15, just for achieving like the highest grade at school, and also the highest achievement in mathematics and for science. I'm particularly interested in competitive programming, so that's where you kind of use programming in a contest, and that's allowed me to receive the honor roll on the CCC Senior Division hosted by the University of Waterloo. And overall, I just believe in today's modern era, coding has just become a universal skill. Like, even if you don't want to become a software engineer when you grow up, I think it's just really useful to have the basics at least, just so you can maybe try it. Maybe if you want to pick it up later, then you have that opportunity.
All right, cool. With that, we will continue on with today's lesson, which is about variables, variable types, and just variable type conversion. So first of all, what is even a variable? So in Python, a variable is essentially a name that refers to a value stored in memory. So when you want to store values such as numbers, such as words, anything you want to refer back to when you're coding, you make it a variable. So yeah, variables, like I said, are used to store information that can be referenced and manipulated later in a program. And essentially, to create a variable, you write the name of the variable, and then you write an equal sign and the value that is assigned to that variable. I'll show you an example here in the next slide. So you can set a variable named x and make it equal 10. You can set a variable named name and make it equal to Alice, but it has to be in quotes here. I'll explain that in a second. And then you can make a variable is active and name it true. So these are 3 different types of variables. I'll get more into that in just a second, but essentially the variable x is an integer, which means it can be any whole number. The variable name is a string, and a string is any letter or set of letters. And to identify that's a string, you have to put quotations around the value. So notice how I put quotations around where it says Alice here. that is required for it to know that it's a string. If you don't do that, your code will have a glitch. Next up, we have isActive, which is a Boolean. A Boolean is basically just whether it's true or false. That's it. So a Boolean can either be true or false. And this becomes useful in coding a bit more later on, but essentially, yeah, like that's what a Boolean is. It's either true or false. So these are three different types of variables. There's one more that we're going to get into a bit later, but these are like the three of the main types you need to know. All right, so now that I've taught you guys that, I want you to try a few of these problems. So first of all, I want you guys to try and make a variable named number and assign the value 50 to it. I want you guys to try and make a variable named name and assign your own name to it. And I want you to make a variable named first letter and assign the letter A to it. So this would be, to give you a little bit of a hint, this would be an integer and these two would be strings. But you don't, Python is beneficial because you don't actually have to write what the variable type is. You can just write the name and then merely just write the assignment operator and its value, and then you will have an assigned variable. So I want you guys to try that with these three problems. I'll give you about since it's three problems here, I'll give you 8 minutes to try it, and after that I'll go over the answers. So if you want to just try that out really quickly, go right ahead.
On which website do we have to do this on?
Um, I sent you all a video on how to set up VS Code, which is essentially like what you'll be coding on. If you don't have that set up, go watch the video. Patrick pasted in chat like after today's class, and then we will have the recording of today's class that you can go back and watch. But yeah, if you don't have VS Code already set up from the video that we sent earlier, you can't exactly try these out. But because like you don't have to like we're not actually like properly coding right now, as long as you can type the answers to these on a document, for now that'll be good enough. But for next class, I want everyone to have VS Code set up. So yeah, for now you can just open a Google Doc or anything like that, or even just like a piece of paper and a pen if you really wanted to, and just write the answers to these, like how you would code them if you were actually coding.
We have to write answers in Google Docs.
If you do not have VS Code already set up, then yes, write it in Google Docs.
Except how to do this problem in VS Code. Can you please tell me how to do these problems in VS Code?
Like what exactly to write, or like how to do it, like specifically on VS Code, like setting up VS Code and stuff. Like, what's the question?
How to do this in VS Code?
Like exactly what to write.
Yeah.
We will be showing the answers like in a few minutes. I just want everyone to like at least try it on their own. If you can't figure it out, that's okay. I'll show you the answers in like 3-ish minutes, and like I'll explain them as well.
Okay.
Okay, that should have been roughly long enough for everyone to try out the problems. I'm going to share the answers now. So for each of these problems, first of all, make a variable named number and assign the value 50 to it. Here's how you answer that one. You just literally write number equals 50. That assigns the integer value of 50 to the name number. Also, the whole purpose of variables, I guess I didn't explain this properly, is that you can refer to it earlier. So, for example, instead of having to type 50 a bunch of times, if you needed to use the number 50 in your code more than once, you could just write number, which makes it a lot easier for referring to these things like later on into your code and keeping your code organized. Anyways, next up we have a variable named name, and you assign your name to it. So for me, my name's Arin. So I named the variable name and equals in quotes Arin, because you have to remember to write quotes for strings. That's how that works. Next up, a variable named first letter and assign the letter A to it. I did that. I wrote first letter and then I assigned the letter A to it, again in quotations because it's a string. Like I said, a string is a set of one or more characters, one or more letters, essentially. So yeah, that's the answers to these questions. If you guys got it, great. If not, that's okay. These are the answers. Just as long as you understand like why these are the answers, we're good. So does anyone have any questions about this?
How to run the program?
On VS Code?
Yeah.
Essentially, there should be like a little play button in the top right, and like it looks like a sideways triangle kind of. And if you hit that, it should run in the terminal. But again, just writing these is not really going to do anything because you haven't told the program to do anything. Right now, we're just creating variables. Once next class, when we like teach you guys how to run print statements, it'll actually like do something when you run the code. So that's why I said for now it's okay if you can't get VS Code working, but for next class, everyone has to have it working. But for now, yeah, the code's not really going to do anything from this. This is essentially just to teach you guys the basics initially.
Excuse me, can you show me what is variable again?
Okay, yes. A variable is a name that refers to a value stored in memory. So like I said, essentially, the name of the variable is either X name or is active for these examples, or for here, like number, name, or first letter, for example. And like those names essentially equivalent to these values. So if you say what is X, like X is the value 10 in your code if you write this, right? So essentially, yeah, a variable is just a name that refers to any value, string, number, Boolean for like true or false. And you can refer to this instead of these values later on in your code.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, cool. All right. Anyways, unless anyone has any other pressing questions, I think we can move on. Okay. So yeah, variable types. So what are variable types? Variable types, or also referred to as data types in Python, are basically the kind of value that a variable can hold. So each type determines what kind of operations can be performed on the variable and how the data is stored and managed. And understanding variable types is crucial for writing correct and effective code. So I've already shown you guys 3 variable types. Like I said, I've already shown you an int, a string, and a Boolean. For example, this one was an integer because an integer is any whole number, basically. This one's a string, so because it's in quotations and it's a set of letters. And this one's also a string because a string can be any one or more sets of letters. And then this one's a Boolean because it can either be true or false. That's what a Boolean is, either true or false. So those are 3 of the 4 different variable types that I want to introduce you guys to today. So like I said, you've already seen an integer, a string, and a Boolean. So what is a float then, as I referred to here, as one of the new variable types I want to show you? So since an integer is any whole number, how would we express decimals? And to express decimals, we use floats. So as you can see in the example here, we have the variable named price, and we have assigned it to the value 19.99. And that essentially is the value of price, and it allows you to do to put decimals in your code. So if we were to just make this an integer, which I mean technically it automatically assigns it as a float, but like an integer wouldn't be able to compute the 0.99 because integers are only whole numbers. It would only read the 19 here. So to allow decimals to exist in your code, you need to use floats. But again, the good thing about Python is you don't have to specifically state that it's a float. Your code will automatically know it's a float just based on the fact that you've put like a decimal there. Anyways, moving on, I want you guys to try this problem. I'll give you about 5-ish minutes to do it. I want you to make a float with the name pi and assign the value 3.14 to it. So this should be relatively basic, but I'm still going to give you guys about 5 minutes till like about 1:31 to try this. If you can't figure it out, that's okay. I'll show you the answer like in 5-ish minutes. But I do want everyone to at least give it a try. If you don't have VS Code, just try and type what you would normally code into Google Docs or something like that. Same type of thing as last time.
Excuse me, are my questions right?
I'm
Like,
sorry.
are my questions right? Like, right here. Oh, I can't. Wait. Just give me a second.
Okay.
The name is only PI or price.
Just pi because we're assigning the value 3.14 to it, which is like pi as in the number.
Are my questions
Okay.
good?
I apologize. I actually hold on. I don't think I can read that from here. Do you mind typing in chat what you wrote?
Oh yeah, okay. Is it right?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
Good job.
Thank you.
Nevertheless, though, I will share the answer with everyone. Yeah, sorry, just give me 1 second. All right, yeah, so just to continue on, here is the answer exactly like she typed in chat. Just write pi equals 3.14. That's all you need to do, and you've assigned the variable name pi with the value 3.14 as a float. So again, if you didn't get that, that's okay. As long as you can see this answer and understand what this means, that's a step in the right direction. This one was relatively basic though, so I have confidence that all of you were able to solve that. Nevertheless, though, does anyone have any questions about this? All right, cool. If not, we will continue on. So now we will talk about the last topic for today, which is type conversion. So in Python, there's two different kinds of type conversion, implicit and explicit. So first of all, implicit type conversion. So the good thing about Python, which makes it so much easier than other programming languages, is that Python will automatically convert one data type or one variable type to another when it's needed for a particular operation. So for example, when performing math, like addition with integers and floats, Python will automatically convert the integer to a float. So if you see here, you have your first, for this example, you have num int, which is just an integer assigned to this variable name of 5. And then you have another variable name named num float, which is assigned to the value 3.14. So when you make result, which is just, you say result is the variable, and it's equivalent to num int plus num float, which is a mathematical operation. We'll get into those later. You don't have to know how to do that. Basically, it's saying that result equals 5 plus 3.14, which would output 8.41. So normally you would think, fine, that makes sense. Why would that ever be a problem? It's just 5 plus 3.14. But the thing is, in other programming languages, num int, which is 5, which is an integer, and then 3.14 is a float. And normally you can't do these kind of operations in other programming languages with separate variable types. However, in Python, it automatically converts the integer to a float, the float 5.0, in order to make this operation happen. So that's a really good thing about Python, that it will automatically do that for you. So in those instances, you won't run into errors. However, I will tell you, if you do ever want to explore other programming languages, such as C++ or Java, you will run into a problem here. However, for Python, it will automatically or implicitly convert the 5 integer to 5.0 float in order to run this operation. So that's what implicit type conversion is. It's very useful. It's very helpful. It makes coding a lot easier, especially in Python. So yeah, that's what implicit type conversion is. Next up, we have explicit type conversion. So what is explicit type conversion? So explicit type conversion is when you manually, you actually tell Python to convert one data type to another. Then these are the operations you would use for it: int, float, and string here. So essentially, I'll show you an example of it in the next slide. But what happens is you have int and then in brackets, so let's say you have a string, right? Actually, here, we'll continue on to these examples. So let's say you have a variable named num string, which is 1, 2, 3. And as you can see here by the quotations, it's obviously a string. It's not actually a number. However, let's say you wanted to do some mathematical operation with that, right? You can't actually do any mathematical operations with a string, and Python won't automatically convert the string to a number for you, like it did with the float and integer. But what you can do is you can convert the string by saying num int, which is a new variable, equals int, and then in brackets num string, which converts the 1, 2, 3 to the integer 123. Another example is if you have 3.14 as a string, you can convert it to a float, like an actual number, a decimal number of 3.14 using this operation. Or you can convert a number, an actual integer, to a string using the string operator here. So it converts the integer 42 into the string 42. So does that make sense to everyone? Does anyone have any questions about that? Does anyone have any questions about what I talked about over here with implicit type conversion? If you have any questions, just like
No.
unmute.
I don't understand second example.
This one?
No, first.
This one.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically what's happening here is you have a string, right? Your string is 1, 2, 3. That is normally like a set of letters, but you can make it really anything you want. Basically, it's just a word, right? It's not actually a number. But when you convert it to an integer, you can use this operation to convert the string 1, 2, 3 into the actual 1, 2, 3 number. Because normally you couldn't do math operations with this because it's a string. It's a set of letters, really. Like, it's like thinking like, could you add like the number 5 to the word hello? Like, it just doesn't make sense, right? So this would be kind of like that. But then when you convert it to an integer using this operation, it actually becomes the number 1, 2, 3. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And the same thing's happening here with 3.14. Does anyone have any other questions about that?
No.
All right, cool. That sounds good. If no one has any other questions, I have the final problem of today's class. We will be wrapping up a little early, so at the end, if anyone has any questions, they can ask. But first, I'm going to give you guys 7 minutes to try this problem. I want you to create a string 158.9 and convert it to a float, like I showed you how to do earlier. And as a bonus, if you would like to try, you can try printing out the answer. We haven't taught you how to do this, so if you can't, that's like more than okay. We'll be teaching that in the next class. It's just like a bonus if you want to try and like, just try something harder a little bit. But you don't have to do that at all. But yeah, anyways, I will give you guys until about 1:45 to try this problem out. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. And then after that, I will show you guys the answer.
Yeah, it is a correct answer.
Is this correct, what I have done in the chat?
Yes, it is correct. Good job, first of all. Secondly, like I'm happy you got the right answer, definitely. But next time, like I'll be showing the answer soon. I just don't want to like send it in chat so like everyone finds out. Like some people might still be working on it. So like I'm very very happy you got the right answer, definitely. But just next time, like I'll show you the answer. So like just don't send it in chat.
I have a problem in the running option.
In VS Code.
Yeah.
Okay, we will take a look at that with you after class if you'd like. We're almost done.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem. For anyone who's still trying it, I mean, I'll give you like maybe one more minute.
Excuse me, I have problem on Java.
I'm sorry, you have a Java problem?
Yeah,
What seems to be the problem?
I don't know what is Java.
Um, I mean, Java is another like programming language, but we're teaching Python right now. So, okay. Here, yeah, after class, if you want to just like or send your problem in chat. Maybe Patrick can help you out. But for now, I'm going to just show everyone the answer to that question that I gave you guys. So create a string 158.9 and convert it to a float. And as a bonus, you can try printing out the answer. I don't know if anyone was able to do that, but I'll show you how to do it. So first of all, you write num underscore str for the variable name and make it 158.9 in quotes to show that that's a string of 158.9 and assign to this variable. And then in order to convert the string to a float, you write num float, which is the new variable, equals float, and then in brackets num str, just like that. And then you print out num float, which is 158.9 for the bonus. But you don't have to do that. Essentially, you only have to do the top two, which is makes like a string of this and then converts it to a float, just like that. So again, if you didn't get it, that's fine. If you did get it, great. Good job. Worst case scenario, as long as you understand this, all is well. So does anyone have any questions about this specifically? Okay, cool. If that is all, then we are done today's class. If you do not have any questions, you may feel free to go. Otherwise, feel free to stay back and me and Patrick will attempt to answer you guys' questions.
We can go. Can you please tell me how to run the VS Code in